Good morning. Buenos dias. It's a true pleasure to be here today and to welcome all of you to our 12th annual global seminar here in the beautiful city of Buenos Aires. For what I know will be an exciting 2 days of discussion. First of all, it's wonderful to see so many familiar faces from around the world in the audience. It's always great to see our stakeholders again. It's also wonderful to see a number of new faces from regional members and regional stakeholders, which we're not able to do if it was not for our decision to hold our meeting here today in Buenos Aires. At the outset, I'd like to thank our hosts, my friend Juan Pazzo from the Superintendency of Insurance here in Argentina and his team. It's been a truly wonderful event so far. We've had 3 days of wonderful meetings, so thank you very much. I'd also like to thank all of you who are here today from around the world for making this global seminar a priority in what I know is a very packed period of May and June with various engagements. But I can tell you that the inputs and the comments that we receive here in our global seminar will be very closely listened to and will absolutely feed into our own strategic discussions, which we will kick off in September. So rest assured that we will take the discussions over the next couple of days very much into our planning. I mean, I think it's also worth mentioning that this is not our only stakeholder event. As you know, we have many stakeholder engagements. It's probably worth mentioning that since the adoption of our strategic engagement plan 2 years ago, we did a bit of a count, and we've actually held nearly 100 engagements with stakeholders in the form of public consultations, public background sessions, subject matter stakeholder discussions, and also dialogues with the executive committee and more. So I hope that's a sign of our commitment to stakeholder engagement. And this year's event really builds on that commitment. You will notice that there have actually been some changes to the format of the global seminar that are designed actually to make it even more interactive and dynamic. So for the first time, for instance, we have some sessions that are being chaired by our stakeholders. We have one session which features a one-on-one stakeholder conversation with our EXCO chair, Vicky. And we've also modified our EXCO dialogue, replacing what was the use of stakeholder panels and replacing that with a structured Q&A session with the audience. So I hope you enjoy these changes. As we kick off this global seminar, I think what we would ask from our side as the IAIS is that we use it as an opportunity to all reflect on what is a changing risk landscape, and also pressing societal challenges that the insurance sector really needs to be at the forefront of addressing. So I'd like us to think about how we can collectively think about acting now to address what are really pressing future challenges and opportunities for the insurance sector. And we really have the benefit of a collective mind here, and a diverse collective mind with a mixture of insurance supervisors, industry stakeholders, international organizations, consumer representatives, to think about how we collectively can come together in a spirit of cooperation to tackle the challenges and to capitalize on these opportunities. So there's much to discuss over the next 2 days, so let me not take any longer, and now move to recognizing the chair of our executive committee, Vicky Saporta, for a brief welcome. Last November in Luxembourg, Vicky was reappointed for a second term as our EXCO chair, and Vicky's vision and inclusive approach have really taken this association to the next level, as I think you will recognize when we talk about our strategic plan later today, and also in the way that we continue to make steady progress in moving our post-crisis reforms, our important projects like ComFrame, ICS, and the holistic framework to finalization in November this year. So with that, Vicky, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonathan, for these very generous remarks. Buenos dias. Hola. I would like to echo Jonathan's thanks to our hosts at the SSN, who really are doing in this country and globally impressive work over the past 3 years and have really raised the profile of the Argentinian insurance footprint in the globe, and thank them very much for inviting us here. We have been having very productive meetings. You're going to hear some of the conclusions we have reached, some of the progress we are making in a very welcoming environment. So thank you. Now, as Jonathan has said, as many of you know, this global seminar comes at an important juncture for the association. We have, on the one hand, the important task this year of finalizing a very public and commitments to the post-crisis reform agenda. The conversations are intense, sometimes difficult, but I can tell you we are really making progress and we are really committed to delivery. I mean, the sort of particular issues you're going to hear later on in the sessions led by the chairs of our parent committees, but we are making good progress on ComFrame. We're going to be publishing material, I believe, by the end of this week, which we agreed yesterday. And we're making very good progress on the holistic framework, where again we're going to be publishing the supervisory material that relate to it as part of ComFrame for consultation, again by the end of this week. And while we're doing this, we are embarking, and to some extent we already have embarked, and we're living the future if you want, on a new strategic direction for the 5-year period to follow. In light of this, as Jonathan said, this year's global seminar takes on heightened significance. We have devoted much of today on this kind of post-crisis work stream and the progress that we are making, because we do realize, and we have read the stakeholder input, that these remain at the forefront of the priorities, the interest of the stakeholders that are in this room. And they will be prefaced with a background presentation by Secretariat staff in the form of an update of where we are on these projects. Of course, as we set off on our new strategic direction, we will pivot to an increased focus on emerging and to some extent emerged risks and trends, and enhanced support for implementation of agreed standards. This is largely reflected in tomorrow's program, where we will hone in on topics that include sustainable economic development, climate risk, the linkage between conduct and prudential supervision, and the emergence of new technologies. To help us sort through these issues, which are the future and which is where we have already started the pivot, and we will be pivoting from next year. We have assembled an outstanding group of panelists that will provide us with much food for thought. Many of the emerging issues we will discuss call for a more collaborative model, not only across the various standard-setting bodies, ourselves, the Basel Committee, FSB, and so on, but also between regulators and stakeholders. Take the issue of operational resilience and cyber resilience. I mean, it is an issue where there is a lot of, there's less conflict between our goals and your goals, and they do call for a more collaborative model. Today's format, with several stakeholder-led panels, as well as more time allotted for audience questions and dialogue with panelists, reflects the beginning of this new approach towards a pivot, if you want, towards a more collaborative model when this is called for. So as we go forth over these next 2 days, I encourage each of you to debate and discuss these issues and stay committed to working together constructively to find the best solutions. As I contemplate the future of the IAIS, I'm confident that the same pioneering spirit that has helped to shape the work of this association, which started 25 years ago in Baltimore, actually, and it was the summer. So it is our birthday. Happy birthday, IAIS. We accept good wishes. And it was a pioneering spirit. I understand there were 11 EXCO members then. There are many more now. And what progress have we made in 25 years? But we are going to do more, and we're going to continue to provide a strong foundation for the work that lies ahead. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vicky. It's now my distinct honor to introduce Mr. Santiago Bausili, Secretary of Finance for the Ministry of the Treasury here in Argentina. Very well known, I'm sure, in need of no introduction, but those from outside the region, Secretary Bausili has spent considerable time in the Latin American financial sector, having spent more than 20 years, first with JP Morgan, then with Deutsche Bank, specializing in debt capital markets and treasury solutions in the Latin American region. He left Deutsche Bank in 2015 to join President Macri's administration, and we're very honored that you've found time to come address us here today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We're extremely honored and thankful for this opportunity of hosting the 12th Global Seminar. There's only so much that we can do for the weather, so I apologize for that. In any case, we thought that at the end of the day, we are regulators, so the industry should look at us through this glass, this grayish glass of weather, right? One of the 8 pillars that President Macri introduced as his main objective for the administration is the reinsertion of Argentina into the global economic environment. And our part in that reinsertion has to do with what we can do from the insurance industry, in particular with respect to the regulatory environment. So for us, this opportunity to interact and to be part of these seminars is essential because it allows us to work on bringing our standards up to the global standards. Last year, in the G20 seminar, when we held the presidency of the G20, we were able to introduce the insurance industry through the insurance forum and position it as one of the distinct stakeholders and earn a seat at the leaders' tables where the main objectives of our leaders from a long-term perspective are discussed. And this year, Japan confirmed that it's going to carry out the seminar again. So the way we see this seminar and what we believe we should be focusing on is take this opportunity where we gather the industry and the regulators together to leave aside for a moment the day-to-day urgencies and focus on these long-term objectives. We believe that we have to look at this opportunity as something that we need to earn every year. So making the best out of this seminar is extremely important. We should make sure that it's very productive and that we can continue to show the global leaders that we deserve that seat at the table and that we share those long-term objectives and long-term views. So only with that introduction, I hope that we make the best and the most out of this opportunity and that it is very productive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary Bausili. My last task is to introduce our MC for the day, which is Connor Donaldson. You met Connor briefly earlier. Connor is head of implementation at the IAIS. You will remember Connor was our MC at our global seminar last year in Moscow. He managed to do such a good job that he got hired again. So with that, Connor, thank you, and over to you to introduce some of our housekeeping. Thank you.